Hare Krishna everyone, so we are continuing the book called Life Comes From Life by His Divine Grace Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. This is Shravanam Diaries podcast and I'm your host Sulalita Devidasi. So the 8th morning walk on page number 45, recorded on May 11th, 1973 on the shores of the Pacific Ocean near Los Angeles. Śrīla Prabhupāda is accompanied by Dr. Singh and other students. Section 1. The Evolution of Consciousness. Dr. Singh. Śrīla Prabhupāda, I came across a statement in the Bhagavad-gītā to the effect that all 8,400,000 species of living entities are created simultaneously. Is that correct? Śrīla Prabhupāda, yes. Dr. Singh, does that mean that there are some living entities who come directly to the human species without undergoing the evolutionary process? Śrīla Prabhupāda, yes. Living beings move from one bodily form to another. The forms already exist. The living entity simply transfers himself, just as a man transfers himself from one apartment to another. One apartment is first class, another is second class, and another is third class. Suppose a man comes from a lower class apartment to a first class apartment. The person is the same, but now according to his capacity for payment, or karma, he is able to occupy a higher class apartment. Real evolution does not mean physical development, but development of consciousness. Do you follow? Dr. Singh, I think so. Do you mean that if one falls to one of the lower stages of life, he must evolve step by step up to the higher stages? Śrīla Prabhupāda, yes. As you get more money, you can move to a better apartment. The apartment already exists, however. It is not that the lower class apartment becomes the higher class apartment. That is Darwin's nonsensical theory. He would say that the apartment has become first class, high class. Modern scientists think that life has come from matter. They say that millions and millions of years ago there was simply matter, but no life. We do not accept that. Of the two energies, life and matter, life or spirit is the original, superior energy, and matter is the resultant, inferior energy. Dr. Singh, do they exist simultaneously? Śrīla Prabhupāda, yes, but spirit is independent and matter is dependent. For example, I can live even without my hands or legs. If they were amputated, I could survive. Therefore, I'm not dependent on my hands and legs. My hands and legs are dependent on me, the spirit soul within my body. Next section is called Bodies for Eternal Desires. Dr. Singh, but do life and matter come simultaneously? Śrīla Prabhupāda, no. They do not come at all. They already exist. The coming, in brackets coming, idea is in our minds because we are living in this limited world where we see that there is a beginning to everything. Therefore we think in terms of coming. But actually matter and spirit already exist. When I am born, I think my birth is the beginning of the world. But the world already exists. Another example is a fire. When you light a fire, do the light and heat begin later on? No, whenever a fire is ignited, immediately there is light and heat. But suppose I think, Now there's a fire, but I have to wait for the light and heat to come later on. Isn't that foolishness? Dr. Singh: but fire is the source of the heat and light. Śrīla Prabhupāda: yes, but still, the heat and light exist simultaneously with the fire. Similarly, the eternal living entities have many different eternal desires, and all the varieties of species also exist eternally to fit these various eternal desires. Dr. Singh: and the living entities are made to live in different bodies according to these desires. Śrīla Prabhupāda: yes. For example, the government constructs a prison house because it knows there will be criminals. 1 second. So, when a criminal is tried and convicted, the prison already exists, even before the judgment period. Similarly, God is described as Sarvagya, he who knows everything. Thus, he knows that some living entities will become criminal and rebel against his service. Furthermore, he knows the various desires the living entities in the material world acquire, according to the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, he creates all the species of life from the very beginning to accommodate all the conditioned souls. The 3 modes of material nature are Sattvaguna, goodness, Rajaguna, passion, and Tamaguna, ignorance. With these 3 qualities, all the different objects of the material world are made. Just as one might mix 3 primary colors, blue, red, and yellow, to make millions of hues. The great expertise required to handle this arrangement exists in nature. According to the Bhagavad-gītā 3.27, Prakrite kriyamanani gunaih karmani sarvashaha. Quote, all activities are performed by the modes of material nature. Unquote. And these modes are manifested in the different types of species, which include plants, trees, aquatics, human beings, demigods, cats, dogs, and many others, totaling 8,400,000 species. The Supreme Lord expands himself as the Paramatma, or Supersoul, in everyone's heart. Although dwelling in the material body, this Supersoul is not material, even though he is the original source of the material body. Because heat and light are the energies of the sun never feels too hot. Similarly, for the Paramatma, there is no distinction between spiritual and material, because both the material and the spiritual energies emanate from him. Sometimes we see that clouds cover the sun, but that is actually our imperfection. We on this planet experience both sunshine and cloudiness, sunshine and cloudiness. But on the sun, even though it can create clouds, only sunshine is experienced. Similarly, the division of matter and spirit is our experience, not God's. Whether he comes in a so-called material body or in a spiritual body, he is always spiritual. For him, matter and spirit are the same because he is the energetic. He can turn matter into spirit and spirit into matter. This is such a crucial point in the whole. Very important to understand. This reminds me of Ahamevasam Evagre, Chatushloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is saying that anything without Krishna, that is Maya actually. Material means that which there is like absence of the Supreme Lord, supposedly. It's actually preposterous if you think of it, because everything is Krishna's energy. So just the illusion that something is not Krishna's energy, that's Maya, that's material. So, next section is called H2O plus mystic power. Dr. Singh. The chemists and the scientists think that certain elements enable the spirit soul to remain in the material world. These elements, they say, are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. The main elements that combine to form living units. I think the Vedas teach that in order for a living creature to develop, spirit must first enter within these pre-existing chemical elements. Is that correct? Śrīla Prabhupāda. Yes. For example, the earth contains everything necessary for a plant to grow, but you must first put a seed in the earth. Similarly, a mother has within her womb all the necessary ingredients for creating another body. But the father must first inject the semen or seed into the womb. Then the child will develop. A dog forms a dog's body, and a human forms a human body. Why? Because all the required ingredients are there respectively. We find a certain quantity of chemicals in my body, a smaller quantity in an ant's body, and a greater quantity in an elephant's body. So if I can create so many more chemicals than an ant, and an elephant can create so many more chemicals than I can, then think just how many more chemicals God can create. This is the basis on which the scientists should consider how hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water. Otherwise, they cannot identify the source of the vast quantities of hydrogen and oxygen required to make the oceans. But we can. This hydrogen and oxygen exist in the Virat Rupa, the universal body of the Lord. Why do the scientists fail to understand this plain truth? Hydrogen and oxygen combine to form the water in the seas. We both accept this fact, but the scientists are surprised to hear that the origin of this huge quantity of hydrogen and oxygen is actually Achintya Shakti, or the inconceivable mystic power of the Lord. Next section, the definition of life. Dr. Singh. I have noticed a disagreement within the scientific community over the definition of living and non-living. Some say that if a being can reproduce, it is alive. Therefore, they claim to have created life because certain large DNA molecules produced in the laboratory can replicate themselves. That is, they can reproduce other chains of molecules by their own power. Some scientists say that these DNA molecules are living, and others say that they are not. Śrīla Prabhupāda. Because somebody is saying one thing and somebody is saying another, their knowledge must be imperfect. Dr. Singh. Can we define living as containing consciousness and non-living as without consciousness? Śrīla Prabhupāda. Yes, that is the difference. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gītā 2.17, Avinashe tu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam. Quote, that which is spread all over the body is indestructible. Unquote. Anyone can understand what is spread all over a living body. It is consciousness. According to our consciousness, at the time of death, we are awarded a particular bodily shape. If you have a dog's consciousness, you will get a dog's body. And if you have a godly consciousness, you will get a demigod's body. Krishna gives everyone the freedom to take whatever body he wants. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti pitri vrata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino pimam. Quote, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. Unquote, Bhagavad-gītā 9.25. And just a side point. I heard this verse so many times, of course, and I was always wondering, okay, those who worship demigods, they go to the demigods. We've heard that many times. They go to heavenly planets, moon planets, all those planets. Those who worship ghosts and spirits, we get it. Such people exist. They are scary people, okay. But who worships the ancestors? Go to the ancestors. And I was like, who worships the ancestors? Like, I've never... And then, of course, like, because I'm a person who's not much of a historian, but my husband is. And then he told me that actually, there are cultures, especially Asian cultures, like Chinese and some of the, like, Japanese, I think also. But Chinese specifically, I remember that they actually worshipped their ancestors. So, like, they meditated on that. And, like, in the Asian or Central Asia, so somewhere also you can find a lot of demigod worshippers if you go to Central Asia, but it is common, like, it is the culture of some ancient cultures that they worship the ancestors. So it existed 5,000 years ago, it existed, I'm sure, many times before that also. There were always people who were worshipping ancestors or ghosts and spirits or demigods, but those who worship me, Krishna says, will live with me. Those who worship the Supreme Lord, they will go to the Supreme Lord. And that is what we want. Because that is eternal. Last section, called Darwin Condemned. Hare Krishna. Dr. Singh, if a human being doesn't attain liberation, does he have to pass through all 8,400,000 species of life before again coming to the human form? Śrīla Prabhupāda, no, only in the lower forms of life does the living entity progress step by step, according to the laws of nature. In the human form of life, he is endowed with developed consciousness. He has discretion. Therefore, if he is advanced in consciousness, he's not going to get the body of a dog or a cat. He will get another human body. Prapya punya kritam lokam ushitva shashvatih samah shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto bijayate. Bhagavad-gītā 6.41. The word yoga brashta refers to someone practicing yoga who somehow or other could not fully succeed. There's no question of evolution here. He is again awarded a human body. He does not get a cat's body or a dog's body. As with the apartments we were discussing, if you can pay more, you get a nicer apartment. You do not have to come to the lower class apartment again. First, okay. You're right. You do not have to come to the lower class apartment first. So some go from the lower and higher, and some, if they can pay higher price, they can just have a better apartment. Dr. Singh, what you have been saying completely contradicts Darwin's theory of evolution. Śrīla Prabhupāda, Darwin is a rascal. What is his theory? We kick out Darwin's philosophy. The more we kick out Darwin's philosophy, the more we advance in spiritual consciousness. Haribol! Dr. Singh, many scientists doubt Darwin's theories, but Darwin's supporters say that life started from matter and evolved from unicellular organisms to multicellular organisms. They believe that higher species like animals and man did not exist at the beginning of creation. Śrīla Prabhupāda, Darwin and his followers are rascals. If originally there were no higher species, why do they exist now? Also, why do the lower species still exist? For example, at the present moment we see both the intellectual person and the foolish ass. Why do both these entities exist simultaneously? Why hasn't the ass form evolved upward and disappeared? Why do we never see a monkey giving birth to a human? The Darwinists' theory that human life began in such and such an era is nonsense. Bhagavad-gītā says that you can directly transmigrate to any species of life you like, according to your efforts. Sometimes I travel to America, sometimes to Australia, and sometimes to Africa. The countries already exist. I am simply traveling through them. It is not that because I have come to America, I have created or become America. And there are many countries I have not yet seen. Does that mean they do not exist? The scientists who support Darwin are nonsensical. Bhagavad-gītā clearly says that all the species exist simultaneously and that you can go to whichever species you like. You can even go up to the kingdom of God if you so desire. All this is declared in Bhagavad-gītā by Lord Krishna. Haribol! Okay, tomorrow we will read the 9th morning walk, and there will be sections like evolution, from human to dog, nirvana, destiny and karma, advertising ignorance as knowledge, fighting ignorance with arguments and knowledge. See, the more we go up morning walks, the more there is this mood of Śrīla Prabhupāda that, like a saintly person doesn't mean he's like shy, sitting in the corner, afraid of speaking up. The saintly person, he knows the truth, he will establish the truth, especially if people are talking complete nonsense in front of him. So I was a little bit triggered when I was reading how Śrīla Prabhupāda was talking about Darwin theory, because just like 2 hours ago, me and my husband, we were talking about how, this whole, we were talking about how the first Indologists and, those who studied Indian culture and Vedas, they this kind of misinterpretation of the Aryan civilization, and how they were saying that, Aryans, it was a race which, moved and then they settled in North India and they went to Europe, and that's why, first India was colonized by English people because English people wanted to give some civilization, whatever. I just maybe that's why I began to love history when I started listening to my husband, because we can learn from that, and there are basically you can learn from history, and you can actually understand history repeats itself. I understand all of that, but I just get so angry and so sad when I hear about how actually India was harassed, basically, how, like, I wanted to, like, learn some basics of Ayurveda, and they also started from history, and I started reading about how, Ayurvedic universities were just destroyed by one kind of invader, like Muslim invaders, and then like British invaders didn't do much contribution as well, or they did contribution in the sense of destruction. Anyhow, so I just like and then you hear that people have faith in somebody's theories just purely based on speculation, and I just, like, my God, I just don't understand how can you live your life based on somebody's pure speculations. And it's just completely, like, I guess as a person who just grew up, or who spent many years and grew up in Krishna consciousness, and who knew that, Vedas come from the breathing of the Lord, and they are the absolute truth, and the Sanatana Dharma, and you don't have to doubt it because it's the actual fact. And yesterday my Guru Maharaj was giving a class on Nityananda Trayodashi. Was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. Or was it before yesterday? When was it? Yeah, it was yesterday, of course. And he was saying a few words after Kirtan, and he was saying this thing that many present gentlemen are from India, so about Lord Ramachandra, about different avatars of Krishna. He's like, and it's not mythology. And he just, like, repeated that few times. It's not mythology, it's history. It was there. And sometimes when I think about it, like, it's just how the misinterpretation and the speculation and complete, backwards the history of India and about all of the, like, Aryan, even the same Aryan. What is an Aryan? Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā, like, you're acting as non-Aryan. Non-Aryan, Aryan means civilized human being, means follower of Varnashrama Dharma, follower of Bhagavata Dharma, and I'm just so grateful to Śrīla Prabhupāda for spreading the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, not as somebody wishes it was, for introducing, translating, and giving the bona fide, authorized, authoritative scriptures and saying how it actually was. Like Śrīla Prabhupada, he doesn't have agenda, or he's not making money off of anybody by presenting his version of the story. He doesn't have some ulterior motives. He just says it as it is, and we know that some people don't gain much from it, because it means that it leaves no room for exploiting some other people. But I know, the further we go, like, I can feel how Śrīla Prabhupāda is saying, this is nonsense. These people are rascals, and having, like, no proof or no base for your theories or speculations, they dare to just not accept and laugh in your face when you're actually telling them how it was. And Haribol, Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago. Kali Yuga is the age of deceit and hypocrisy, and if we are, like, I was so happy to read that last verse. I will quote, and then I will conclude my weird emotional monologue. I read in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11th, it was Jiva Goswami's commentary. He said that he was quoting a verse from another, I think it was also some Vedic scripture he was quoting, some Purana, which said that one who remembers Lord Govinda, for him Kali Yuga becomes Satya Yuga, means this age of quarrel and hypocrisy becomes Satya Yuga, becomes golden age. And for a person who is in Satya Yuga, who forgets the lotus feet of Lord Govinda, for him Satya Yuga can become Kali Yuga. So we should not think that, oh, the Kali Yuga is self-imposed on me and I have nothing to do about it. I just need to drown in the pool of garbage. And no, it's not like that. If we become conscientious, God-conscious human beings with actual God-centered, Krishna-centered life, then all of these things just become clear and truth shall prevail. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in today. The link to this book is in the description, and we shall see you next time. And if you were also a bit disappointed that yesterday the website did not launch, I'm with you on this one, but just almost everything is ready, and we just want to really make it nice to launch for you. And last minute there were some changes for the best, and I'm really grateful to everyone who's waiting and who is supporting and praying. And my husband, my sister, they're also kind of being my advisors, and I love the teamwork, and thank you so much for your support. The website will be launched soon. So, Hare Krishna, we shall see you next time.